And we are recording with Professor Roger Williams, as I do believe today is a Professor Williams podcast. Roger is the author of my favorite book, The Metamorphosis of Prime Intellect, which is available on Lulu, and you should buy it, unless, of course, you want to support Jeff Bezos in his eventual grab for total and complete power, and the circle of destiny is complete as capitalism becomes one giant amorphous circuit-based god with no free will. Or you can just buy it on Lulu and give Roger a couple bucks. Same price.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favorite fucking book. It's the only book that goes beyond the singularity, what happens after the singularity. Everyone else walks right up to it. Roger goes through it. And it is dark and harrowing. And it's also exactly what you'd think it is. But Roger actually fleshes it out. With that, Mr. Ed, today is for all future listeners. Today is Sunday, July 24th, 2022 at 5:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Episode 871. Roger, take it away, my good friend.
And your favorite book is, of course, full of some really deep sexual weirdness. And I have
pretty quick right off the bat.
That's one of the things that I've always been interested in, mainly because of how things work. Why are some people gay and some people straight, and some people have even odder interests? Why do they keep adding letters to the LGBTQIA plus acronym?
What is it now? LGBTQ? I thought it was LGBTQ2IAS plus.
The latest and greatest appears, because I just looked it up before we started this, is LGBTQIA plus.
IA plus.
So T is for trans, queer, intersex, asexual, and allies.
It's fine with me, as long as they just as long as they don't try to lump in pedophiles with that.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about things like that and what makes people do stuff like that as well.
What makes them tick? All right.
And let me move my notes. So we'll put you over here and my notes here so I can look at them. So we just went over the LGBTQ thing. And the reason they keep adding letters to it is that the individuals want to draw increasingly fine-grained distinctions. So in the beginning of the gay rights movement, trans people were considered rather suspect. And the T was added to show, no, we are going to recognize that trans people have their own needs and they need to be respected as well. Intersex is people who do not have normal genitalia that can be identified as either male or female. And A is asexual. They're people who simply do not seem to have an interest in sex at all. And that's actually a gender identity.
They're probably the smartest people out there.
Yeah, well, smart doesn't really have much to do with it. It's something that seems to happen automatically.
Yeah.
And, this isn't working out. I'm going to have to move the notes back and just glance over. This is more conversational than a reading. So you've got all these different desires that people seem to have, and they can come in different combinations. The psychiatric community has no agreement whatsoever as to what constitutes a paraphilia as a deviance or a disorder versus a normal variation in human sexuality. I'm going to make the case here that there is no difference at all. It's all the same thing. And the only difference is that different patterns get stored in the places where your triggers are located. So to start off, I want to mention a writer who was somewhat influential on me as far as getting interested in this stuff, because her journey was so weird. This is Pat Califia. She came out as a lesbian in 1971. And in 1978, she came out, actually a couple of years before that, she came out as a sadist. So in the course of that, she got estranged from her family and kicked out of the lesbian activist movement. So in 78, she co-founded an organization called Samoa, which was a support group for lesbian sadomasochists. Now we're getting rather fine-grained already, but there's more. Okay. Pat Califia came out by writing an article for The Advocate called A Secret Side of Lesbian Sexuality. Uh, and I didn't know about it till years later because I wasn't really interested in the topic matter that The Advocate covers. And I found out about it from an anthology. Uh, but the group Samoa eventually published a book of their own essays called Coming to Power. And you can't make this shit up.
That woman needs a raise.
Well, the thing is, she's a really good writer.
Clearly, Coming to Power is brilliant.
Well, that was actually the anthology. She contributed an essay to that book, but it wasn't A Secret Side, the essay that started her reputation. But anyway, in the 90s, she started realizing that she felt more comfortable in the company of gay men than she did the company of lesbians. And eventually, she decided that she identified as male. And around 2000, she had a sex change operation and became Patrick Califia, who identifies as a gay trans male. And in her write-up of this process, she actually pokes a little fun at herself and says, see, the sex thing is even weirder than you realize. But her writing and some of the other people in the gay rights movement, obviously, they have a bigger interest than most people do in figuring out why this happens and how to deal with it. And unfortunately, they have some wrong ideas too. Now, there are several systems that seem to have dedicated circuitry, as it were, in the brain that encourage us to reproduce. And sexual arousal is the fundamental one that gets the process started. But then there's romantic love, which is a completely different thing, although you're probably going to fall in love with somebody that you are having sex with or interested in having sex with. And romantic love doesn't last because it would be a very bad idea for it to, because that euphoric feeling that you feel when you're in love is caused by the chemical phenylalanine, which is one carbon atom away from amphetamine. So if you think about it, we've all heard of people who seem to be in love with falling in love. They have serial, intense relationships. That's because they're addicted to phenylalanine. And they don't get to the third stage, which is pair bonding. After that intense romantic
infatuation
fades, then you end up in a more stable thing where you might stay with someone for the rest of your life that encourages to mate for life, raise family, stuff like that.
Stable family structure.
And as you know, I've experienced all three of these because I've been with the same woman since 1985.
That's awesome.
So it worked out pretty well.
Awesome.
So, but sexual arousal is where it all starts. And the thing is, there are really fine-grained preferences that people seem to develop. So in addition to being attracted to men or women, whether you are a man or a woman yourself, or strongly to one and not the other, or to both, if you're bi, there are primary attractions that are more important to the person who has them than gender or humanity even. Okay. You've got people who are who have like a leather fetishes, stuff like that. One of the ladies who wrote in Coming to Power was a shoe fetishist, and she said all it takes is a pair of high heel shoes. It works every time. It's automatic. So,
fuck yeah, dude.
So
I wish I understood myself that well.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about a couple of people who have seriously done some introspective looking at themselves. Now, when you start looking into stuff like this, like I said, the psychiatric community doesn't have any agreement about whether preferring leather to whether your partner is one sex or the other or even human is that a disorder? There is no agreement on where normal variations in sexual preference end and disorders that should be treated somehow begin. There's also no agreement on how they should be treated, because I'm going to make the case that they can't be treated. It's not possible to treat them. Whatever you end up stuck with, you are stuck with for the rest of your life, unless you just don't think about sex at all. You can do that, but you can't really change those trigger preferences. So if these patterns are so important, uh, fashions, there are people who are interested in rubber, for example. You have all of these things going on in the wings. Then of course you've got pedophilia and voyeurism and stuff like that, which are kind of problematic. Where do these come from? There are two theories you hear a lot. I'm going to go over them first because they're both wrong. The first one is that it's genetic. And there's two reasons why it's not genetic. The first is that there is no evidence whatsoever that anything like this runs in family lines. There are some societal biases. Male masochism is called the English vice for a reason. Some societies seem to have more of a tendency to create people.
Which one? Sorry, which one? I always forget sadism and masochism. Which one is self, which is other?
Sadism is wanting to be on top and boss the other person around.
Got it.
Masochism is being on the bottom and wanting to be bossed around. And there is a lot of fine variations there too, with how intense you want it to be. Because some people are into it lightly, some people are into it extremely heavily. So that's another thing that varies from person to person. So just because two people both identify as a masochist doesn't mean that they want exactly the same thing. So there's where did all these patterns come from? Well, there's no hint that there's no evidence that they run in family lines, particularly when you start looking at the really fine grained stuff. And it's also impossible because the human genome consists of about 7 billion bits of information. It's 3.5 billion base pairs, each of which is 4 possibilities. So that's 2 bits. And that is not nearly enough information to program the cerebral cortex. Because the cerebral cortex has 10 billion neurons, each of which has about 1,000 interconnections to other neurons. It takes 35 bits to identify a neuron. You need to identify 2 of them to describe a connection. So it ends up being about 10,000 times too complicated for it to be genetic.
It's that realization when they couldn't explain the structure of the universe because like 78% of matter wasn't accounted for. You hold the fuck up.
Yep. But this is information theory. So even though we don't really have a clear idea about a lot of how the brain works, it doesn't matter because there's not enough. Your genetic code will almost fit on a compact disc. It would rattle around on a DVD. And your noggin, your cerebral cortex, and the wiring between different areas probably constitutes about 10 terabytes of information. At least that's what it would take to wire it up. Now, what probably does happen genetically, the way your brain is formed, we know something about fetal development of the brain, and there are about 100 distinct areas in the human neocortex, and there seem to be bundles of fibers connecting them one to another in kind of ordered patterns that repeat from individual to individual. So there's kind of a master plan for how the brain wires itself. But the fine details, you can say, well, send a bundle of fibers from this area to that area. And then when those fibers get there, they're just going to wire themselves up at random. They're all going, each of those fibers is going to look for a column that isn't hooked up yet and hook up to it. Now, in the brain, you've got the cortex is a sheet. If you unfolded it, and laid it flat on a table, it would be about 2 square feet. It fits in our heads because of all the convolutions and stuff. It contains about 100 million columns. It's about 100 neurons thick. And it's widely thought that those columns are the basic unit of information processing in the cortex, that basically each of those columns is a potential pattern detector. Now, what makes them detect a particular pattern is something that is impossible to put in the genetic code. There simply isn't room for that. And if you look even at what you might think of as a simple pattern, like what causes you to pop a boner, what is it that turns you on, that triggers you to get, there's the automatic thing, it triggers you to get ready to have sex.
Mm-hmm.
If you imagine building a machine that you could point at an image and it would turn on a light if that same image would turn you on, what would it take to build that machine? How much memory would it need? And it turns out to be a lot. The only reason we're starting to have any kind of success with things like self-driving cars, which need that kind of ability to recognize patterns in the natural environment, is because gigabytes of data are now cheap. And that's why no one even thought anything like that was practical until around 2000. And it didn't really become like something you might try to deploy in the real world until after 2010. So we say it's not genetic. That's my argument there. There's another camp that thinks it's learned in the same way that you might develop a habit. Okay. It's like you take up smoking and you can't stop, or it's difficult to stop. Actually, a lot of these people want to think that it's learned like that because you can stop a habit and you can develop a new habit. And there are people who think that this is the solution to the problem of people whose sexuality isn't normal, is they just need to get with the program and learn a new pattern that's more acceptable.
Conversion camps.
Yeah. The problem with that is, as we know, if you know anything about conversion therapy, it don't work.
Yeah.
And there's, and people, it's not like no one has tried.
Yeah, they've tried.
So if we, let's see, get out here. So what is it? Well, we have a model for how these things are formed and how they act, and it matches what we know about the way humans seem to act. But in animals, there are some places where it happens where we can observe it more easily, and it's called imprinting. Now, precocial animals, which are animals that can walk within hours of being born or hatched, they have to imprint quickly so that they won't use their ability to walk to wander away from their mother. Well, we know when those animals imprint because they imprint shortly after they're born or hatched. So that makes some fuckery possible. When I was younger, we had a couple of chickens and a goose. Well, the goose imprinted on my tennis shoes. I had a pair of blue tennis shoes I wore all the time. And Flicky the goose imprinted on my tennis shoes. It was cute as hell. He would follow me all over the yard, looking at the shoes. For the rest of that bird's life, it was fascinated by humans wearing blue shoes. Even after we let it go and join a flock of geese at one of the local parks, if we would go visit once in a while, and if he saw my shoes, right over. If he saw anyone else with blue shoes,
I think I've successfully imprinted the local geese, because for like 3 months, I stopped like 2 weeks ago. But for like 3 months, every single day, I'd bring a 99-cent, like 20 slices of white bread from Walmart, a full loaf. The 2-minute walk from here to the gym, I'd stop at the same tree and I'd throw bread to all the geese and their baby geese. Legitimately did it for about 90 days with very few breaks. When I walk to the gym now, the older ones don't really care.
Yeah.
They come, I'm not Roger, they come, people think I'm like a biblical figure because I walk by and not only do they not go from me, they come across the pond, the little ducks come wagging. There's even a turtle that will like come up out of the water. It really is some like messianic, like I stopped maybe subconsciously because I was like, this isn't going to a good place. This is not. This ends with me screaming at a podium, leading an army. So, but
Army of ducks and
yeah,
geese.
yeah, yeah. No, this
But
graduates to me becoming addicted. But
yeah,
even this, I just saw unintentionally. They
right.
went from running from me to following.
And the other example we have is non-precocial animals are more like humans. We don't really see clearly when they imprint. That it could be a little later. It doesn't matter as much because they spend more time being cared for by their parents. But we do know that they imprint because the ones that we've domesticated tend to imprint on humans. Everyone has known of a dog that clearly imprinted on its own. If you get it as a very small puppy that hasn't opened his eyes yet, and you're taking care of that dog when it's very young, it's going to think it's a person.
Mhm.
I have a parrot that thinks it's a human being. Now, what probably happened there was the natives, because he's an imported parrot, but the natives probably took him out of the nest and hand fed him. And so when he did imprint, he was in the company of people. If you ever watch a video of them feeding like chicks or the young of a species that they're trying to save, that's endangered, you'll notice that they like to feed them with puppets that
Uh-huh.
resemble, yeah, and that's to avoid getting them to imprint on humans. They want to make sure that their imprint matches their species form so that they'll have a normal reproductive life. But because the other thing is we know from all the years we've been doing this with animals that once the animal imprints, that's it.
Mhm.
That's what it's. I mean, they've actually had a guy who had to learn to dance with a crane in order to get the crane to reproduce, in order to get young from that bird to save its species, because the bird thought thought it was human, so it had to dance with a human. Uh, so that brings us to the question then of, well, if humans imprint, when does it happen? Because it's not real clear. All we know is you wake up one day when you're old enough to express an interest, and you realize, even if you haven't hit puberty yet, maybe you have more of an interest in your own sex than the other, or whatever. Okay, or you have an interest in some odd side thing.
Certain kinks, yeah.
Okay. There's a guy named Robert Anton Wilson, or there was he's died a few years ago, and he wrote a lot about Wu type phenomena. He was one of my primary sources for that. But he has an entire chapter in one of his Cosmic Trigger books, his little series that he wrote, where he discusses imprinting and where we get our sexual interests. And he does a little introspective journey on himself, and he thinks that it happens around the age of 2. And the reason is that when he was that age, his parents hired a babysitter who had red hair. And as an adult, he realized after many years that he had never had a serious relationship in his life with a woman who wasn't a redhead, that this was a preference. And in his case, it was kind of subtle. He didn't realize it until he looked back over his life and said, hey, there's something going on here. and and he also thinks that there is a sharpening, or thought that there is a sharpening event that happens around puberty, and that possibly you have a number of these patterns that are set up and ready to go, but it may be the first ones that you exercise
That
that actually result in sexual pleasure get strengthened, and
gets
the others,
solidified.
right, and then the others kind of fade. You may still have them as a secondary interest, but your primary interest is going to be the one that always opens the lock, like the shoe lady in Coming to Power. Now, I'm not the only one to have made this observation. He did that. Neil Stevenson, who is a fairly well-known writer, has an entire chapter in his novel Cryptonomicon, because Alan Turing is one of the major characters, and his homosexuality is a major plot point in the story. And so they have a whole chapter where a character in the story is musing about what makes people different like this. And his conclusion is exactly the same as mine, that you imprint on something and that imprint becomes permanent. And it sucks to be you if you're a pedophile at that point, because
Yeah.
there's not really anything that can be done about it. So that brings us to, well, how does that work then? What exactly is going on? I already mentioned that the brain, we've seen, it has these bundles of nerve fiber running hither and thither and though, and also everything in the cortex is connected to the thalamus, which is a little small organ in the middle. And the cortex isn't connected to anything but the thalamus, except for your nose, because it evolved from the organ that processed sense. But most of what it does in cooperation with the thalamus. And the general theory for many years was that information enters the cerebral cortex at certain areas that are wired to the senses. The sensory homunculus, which crosses the top of the head out from ear to ear, and the visual cortex, which is around the middle of the back of the head. And it's thought that as those pattern detectors get further from the actual sensory inputs, they are detecting more and more abstract things because they're using the output of the last set of pattern detectors as their inputs. And so eventually what you're doing is forming a fairly complete notion of where you are in the universe, what your situation is and all. Then it's thought that that's all happening in more or less in the back of your brain. Then there are all these cables going to the front of your brain where they connect to other areas of about the same level of abstraction. But in the front of the brain, information seems to travel toward the motor homunculus, which is by the sensory homunculus. And it gets more and more fine until if the a vague idea that you thought might be a good idea to improve your situation based on your evaluation of what the situation is, then it gets broken down into finer and finer sub movements until it reaches the motor homunculus and signals are sent to your muscles to move your body in order to hopefully change your situation. Now, a lot of this for me comes from this guy. I think I showed you this book before, Dr. Eric Harth, The Creative Loop. He is, or was, he died about 10 years ago, I think. He's an actual neuroscientist. I mean, he has a lab, works with cell cultures, does surgery and all that stuff. But he also was making computer models in the 1990s because he had a theory about how the cortex and the thalamus work together in order to produce what we call a mind. And he points out that all of those nerve bundles, all of those cables that seem to go from area A to area B or back and forth to the thalamus are all bidirectional. They all have fibers that transmit in both directions. And he observes rather snarkily in this book that what his colleagues have been doing with these wrong way fibers for the last couple of decades is ignoring them. So he has the theory that the thalamus is a sharpening device, a hill climbing engine that sharpens incoming sensory data toward a stored pattern that is relatively near to it, or maybe causes a new pattern to be stored if something keeps happening that's repetitive and it's not being responded to by anybody else. There's a lot we don't know about exactly how the patterns are programmed, but his model makes a lot of sense as far as how we perceive things. And his idea is that information doesn't just go from point A to point B in the cortex, it's actually boinging back and forth between the thalamus and the cortex, with the thalamus actually taking the incoming sensory data, the pattern thing, and sharpening the incoming sensory data in order to recognize situations and images and all. And he made a very good point that in his computer models that they tended to make the same kind of perceptual mistakes that humans make. The same sort of things that, like optical illusions and all, mistaking one thing for another, that his very simple models, because he was doing this in the 90s, explained a lot of the stuff that humans seem to do. And that boinging of data back and forth between the thalamus and the cortex is what we call thought.
Okay.
Now, what I could thing happens. The thing about imprinting is most scientists seem to think that there's a window that opens, and then whatever is observed during that window is what we imprint on. I think it's actually a little simpler than that. My conjecture is that when we're infants, whatever area of the brain or the spine of the brain stem or the spinal cord is responsible for sexual arousal sends a bundle of nerve fibers up to the thalamus, and they hook in to specific areas that are at about the right level of abstraction. There's nothing else special about these, though. The whole thing of the thalamus and the cerebral cortex are both as there's no special parts of them. They are completely like just no matter where you look, it's always the same. What's special about them is what sensory inputs they're hooked up to, what motor outputs they're hooked up to, or maybe how they're wired back and forth with these bundles of white matter fibers. What I think happens is the area of your brain that results in sexual arousal sends a cable up and wires it in at random. And whatever those columns end up programmed to recognize once they start detecting a pattern becomes your sexual trigger. And that's why it can't be changed. Those things are wired up before you even have any patterns to recognize. And there's nothing special about those columns except that they've been hooked for that purpose. And they will acquire a pattern to recognize just like any other column in your brain as you go through life, seeing stuff, experiencing things. And whatever pattern lands on those columns that have been hooked by your arousal center, those become your arousal triggers. The reason for the sharpening event at puberty might be to make sure that at least one or two of them actually works, because it's random.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this pretty much guarantees, that it's going to misfire sometimes, that you're not going to be aroused by something that actually contributes to your to reproduction. And evolution doesn't care about that.
Yeah, as long as like 99.999% of them are reproducing, it doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be that many. If you
a percentage.
As long as enough people end up reproducing to keep the species going, then it's an acceptable solution, and there's no evolutionary pressure to change it or come up with something else.
Carpet bomb all of Germany will eventually hit the tank factory.
Right. Now, the thought just left my head again.
Doesn't have to necessarily make sense. Sometimes it misfires.
Yeah. So
sharpening just for the sake of it working.
Yeah. So anyway, so nature doesn't really care if this process is perfect. And obviously some people who have alternate sexual interests are going to be less likely to reproduce because of that. Some still will. One of the things I was going to mention is that animals also still have pheromones, most of them. So even if your dog imprints on you, if he finds himself around a female dog that's in heat, he's going to figure out what to do, because that's a chemical.
Yeah.
Humans, though, have moved almost everything to the cerebral cortex. That is the genius of our species. It is so much more versatile. All those precocial animals have a walking reflex. Humans have a walking reflex too. The pediatricians test for it. And we have to lose it and inhibit it before we can learn to walk the way we walk.
Yeah. Not on all fours.
Right. And also because we don't have a fixed gait. A racehorse has a gait that is fixed by its genome. And if a racehorse doesn't have a particularly efficient gait, there's nothing that can be done. It can't be taught a different way of walking, but humans can. And that's sort of another thing. So we have moved like all this stuff that's in the brainstem of other species. We're doing it through the cerebral cortex and the thalamus now. And
I thought when you said racehorse, I thought you said race wars.
No.
When you said race wars have a specific genome, I was like, Roger, please don't.
No, 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 no.
Please don't do
Not
that.
going. Not,
I was like,
that's
please don't do that
not
on here.
not going there at
Okay.
all. No, that
I was like, please.
no. The animals that
Yeah, yeah.
go nay and okay. So, so they are unlike humans in that respect. So they are more genetically programmed than we are. That's one of the things about it. It's really, as far as human cognition, almost nothing is genetically programmed. But that leaves us with the question, right now, there's no broad agreement. Like, okay, if I could think of that, and if Neil Stevenson, and all these other people have think of it, if we have all these animal examples, why is this not something you hear all the time? Why do so many people go with the wrong ideas that it's genetic or that it's a habit that you learn? And the reason for that is that nobody likes this idea. It is everybody's worst nightmare.
That's just random.
That it's just random, but it's also unchangeable. So if you think that sexual deviance is a problem that needs to be fixed and it's genetic, you can fix it through eugenics.
Mm-hmm.
If it's learned, you can fix it by reconditioning therapy. But if it's imprinting, you can't fix it.
We love the science until it spits in our worldview.
Yeah.
We love the model. We love the science until it disagrees with our model. Well, no, we have to be the center of the universe.
Yeah. So and even a lot of people in the gay rights movement prefer to think that it's genetic, because it gives, they can basically say, I was made this way, it's who I am. It's a reason to say, well, you should respect me and not get on my case about it.
Yeah, fuck off. It's who I am.
Yeah. So that is kind of the sticking point with it, is you've got a bunch of people who want to believe wrong things because even if you tell them the right thing, they're not going to want to believe that. That's just not what they want to hear. And that's where we are. Is now we've got the LGBTQIA plus people on the one side. I once got into a heap of trouble on Metafilter for dropping into a conversation about this, that it's obvious that whatever mechanism causes some people to be gay and some people to be straight is the same mechanism that causes some people to be interested in leather or sadomasochism. And oh my God, did I catch a bunch of shit for that, because the LGBTQIA people, they're starting to get some respect. They don't want to be lumped in with these weirdos.
Yeah.
That's different. No, it isn't.
Which is kind of like an odd meta irony.
Yeah.
Of we're not weirdos. We're like you. We deserve respect. And it's like, but that's what you were trying to not be part of. I don't want to be a slave anymore. I'm a human. I'm with a conscious being. But fuck the Irish. Like
that's it. And actually the same thing has happened several times in the lesbian gay community, which is when they start having pride parades and they start trying to drum up interest, everyone is invited. So you hold the pride parade and the leather people come out, and the Toms and Dykes and femmes and the lesbians and all. It's like all of these subcultures show up and represent. But then when they start to get a little respect, and it's like, hey, now we can legally get married. Then we're not like these weird people over here. We're respectable. And
it's being a hardcore shock jock podcaster, and then all of a sudden you get sponsored by like Home Depot, and you're like, let's stop with the white supremacy shit. Stop bringing up the whole, stop saying retard.
Yeah. So you have that going on, and none of this is really helping anyone to understand what's actually going on. If you look at what it does suggest, if I'm right, then well, the LGBTQ whatever people, they're right that you shouldn't fuck with their shit. All right, you shouldn't fuck with somebody's shit if they have a weirder thing, as long as it's not hurting other people. Uh, now, if someone turns out to be a pedophile or a voyeur or an exhibitionist, well, exhibitionism isn't even that. I mean, you can find safe outlets for that.
Sure.
You can find a safe outlet for voyeurism. There's not much hope for you if you're a pedophile. About all you can do then is volunteer to become asexual and hope that everyone is
Yeah.
cool with that. But they're notoriously unrepentant because everybody is notoriously unrepentant about once they figure out
Who
that,
they are.
yeah, what the, it's like a lock, and those patterns are the key that unlock it. And some people never find their key. That may be what the people, the asexuals are, is they may just be people that never got anything programmed that quite works. And so they're wondering what the big deal is.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, because they're not in, the reason they want to be represented in the movement, though, is because their people regard them suspiciously because they don't have normal relationships. And
Yeah, you're a serial killer. And it's like, nah, I'm just
yeah, so uh, but you have to get over this. Both both of the more common uh, mistaken ideas lead people to try things that are not going to work. That's the most important thing about it. And there have been all kinds of problems like this. This is really a problem in the sciences. Uh, Neuroscientists should know better. They should be able to come out and say, no, this is imprinting. This is a mechanism that we recognize in animals. We've seen it demonstrated in all these easily repeatable ways. And some humans can actually point at different things and show that this was what they imprinted on, because Robert Anton Wilson isn't the only one, I'm sure. And that should settle the issue. But you've got all these people who want it to be something else so badly, and they end up making bad policy. I mean, let's face it. Well, you don't have much of a worse policy than we need to wipe all these people off the face of the earth.
yeah.
There's, that doesn't work, and it's just not a good idea. Any society, the rate of this kind of misprinting uh, seems to be between 10 and 20% for every human society where we have been able to study the incidents. And of course, people try to hide it, and so that gets complicated. But there's always a certain percentage, and it's never a very large percentage, like half or anything like that. So there's a certain slice there, and because it's a fairly small percentage, they tend to get alienated. Some societies figure out what to do with them. The Native Americans had the thing where you could become a contrary. That was a way to express yourself if you didn't feel like you were part of the normal tribal society.
What's
If you're
a
looking,
what's a contrary?
they would do everything backwards. They would ride their horse backwards. They would, there's a whole little set of things that they would just do the opposite of what everybody else does, as if to emphasize, yeah, this is
I'm
this is
different.
different. Uh, and that was an accepted solution if you found yourself uh, in,
Which in a weird way is still steamrolling them into being part of the group. Just do
it
everything.
is.
Just go left-handed instead of right.
Well, your options are a bit more limited too in a tribal community because there's just not as many people.
Yeah.
So you've got to do something. But
Yeah.
any society that just throws away 10 or 20% of its population has a
It's
serious
not.
problem.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not. Yeah. It's not going to thrive.
Yeah. So you got to figure out something here. And part of the problem is that they're going too far. It's like we don't want to admit that this is all the same mechanism because we've got a little respect now. And I'm not saying in any way that uh, it's broken if you're gay or if you're trans or if anything like that. It's a way that you might just end up finding out that you are. But it's only broken if you find yourself compelled to do things that other people find hurtful and don't want you to be doing. So principally pedophilia and extreme sadism where you don't care too much
You
whether
don't
your
want.
victim is in the mood.
You don't want consent. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so that's Professor Rogers' little popcorn history of human sexuality.
I thought it was brilliant. And it's, I mean, in a weird way of like imprinting and sharpening, there's like a meta theme here. You can like see a lot of inspiration for Mopey,
Mhm.
because
Oh
where would
yeah,
this be able to run rampant in a world where you weren't harming anyone and you could,
yeah,
spoiler alert, do it all in a
yeah,
simulation?
yeah. And and one of the things is we raise children very differently in the modern world than tribal peoples do. And whatever area of the brain these fiber bundles targeted to become your imprints may be picking up different patterns because we're exposing kids to different things at a young age that uh, they might not be exposed to.
Mhm.
Uh, Sadomasochism, I think, can probably very strongly be related to the fact that we expose children to authority and dominance in our way that we treat them at these young ages. Uh, many years ago, I was listening to it wasn't a podcast because it was before those. It was some kind of a, I think it was a book on tape, but uh, the author pointed out that you can really tell a lot about a society's attitude by the way that they correct children. And he pointed out that in Germany, a typical thing would be, "Don't do that. Be in line."
Yeah.
Okay.
Schnell. Achtung.
Whereas among the Hopi Indians, it would be more typical to say, "No, no, no, that is not the Hopi way."
Hmm.
Okay. We think that it is perfectly reasonable to express our authority over children in terms of power because
Mhm.
we are larger and stronger and smarter than children. And so they damn well better listen to us.
Yeah, you'll respect your elders, do as you're told.
And uh, now, primitives, hunter gatherer societies did not seem to do that. The ones that we've studied have very different ways of correcting children than we do. And if you want to wonder why so many people get really interested in discipline, in power relationships and discipline sexually, it might be because those patterns are forming in a part of the brain where they normally wouldn't form until later, and they wouldn't be in that part of the brain. Again, why is male masochism the English vice? Have you ever, well, looked at how an English public school is run?
Isn't it very
It's
like,
all about power and dominance and
but well, it's just like
authoritarianism.
it's another brick in the wall, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
Uh,
teacher, leave them kids alone.
and so
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It is overweight guy in like suspenders, like with like a switch. It's just like hitting kids.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so then you wonder why kids pick this up as something they want to continue to experience when they're in adulthood. Well, there could be a reason for that.
Then
Uh,
there's even like not even that they like it. There's just like there
yeah,
is something to be said for just the devil you know. It's people that they're like, being an alcoholic is painful, but I know how it works. And it's
mhm.
in the grand scheme of just the absurdity of existence. Sometimes you just cling to the thing you know.
Yeah. Well, it's actually that it's become a hardwired trigger. That's become your trigger for sexual arousal.
Well, that's it.
So yeah, uh, so that's you look at some of the things people fetishize, like rubber and latex. That's something that didn't even exist until a
Yeah.
century ago. How
Yeah.
could that be genetic? It didn't even exist. In one of the books about this I was reading, they had an account of a guy who could only achieve orgasm by masturbating into the tailpipe of his classic car.
You know what would be a way to push humanity forward? Would be to just a mass indoctrination to get everyone turned on by like nuclear energy. Maybe that's the quickest way to push society. It's like the argument that sex drives society forward. Like all a penthouse
Yeah.
is the high up nest. Like, right, there's nothing but like pussy, power, and money. or was it pimps, mercenaries, and prostitutes? Like, what if fuck the capitalist incentive was like, that was a good run, but we found something far more efficient. People come so hard when they inhabitate a new planet. Like, people are just nutting so hard upon
Yes.
landing on Mars.
We have to raise our children in an industrial environment so that they imprint on machinery.
Maybe that's the more, maybe that will make capitalism look inefficient, because capitalism's inefficient, but it's like, it's kind of the most efficient haphazard broken system we've created.
Mm.
What if you made something? But then that's a weird thing, though, right? It's because, so it's like, well, then why do these things persist? And then you have, right, generations of natural selection, like the definition of fitness, your ability to raise offspring to an own age where they can reproduce and mate. It then would take the one that has the propagates the most generations. You would think that the society that looks after one another, right, has like a strong welfare state, has a strong, and I don't say this derogatorily, takes care of itself, would propagate the furthest. But like, one of the, like, really just the kind of like the dark realizations I have, and I like don't want to believe it. It almost seems like, if it's all random, it almost seems like natural selection is selecting for psychopaths.
That is a possibility, or that could be one of the results of that. It could be one of the imprinting errors. It would be
Yeah, and if it's all
psychopathy.
random, this might just be one of the war game scenarios that
Yeah,
just is
because it's
randomly off the right
probably
field.
sexual arousal is probably not the only thing that works this way. If you think
Yeah,
about
I
it.
mean, that's, yeah.
So one thing nature loves to
Per-
do is reuse a solution.
yeah, it works for sexual arousal. Why can't it? And the brain's getting so complex. How come we can't use it for fulfillment? And
Yeah.
like, it just misfired. And so now we're just like, money, more cars, bigger house, fulfillment. It's like, oh fuck, it's the rocket.
Yeah.
The GPS system went off, but now it's going Mach 9. And it's like, oh Jesus.
And if you look at it another way too, it's one of the advantages of the way that humans do it could be that you have all of these uh, edge cases that develop because it's not fixed by the genome. I mean, think about how many of really great people is for like scientists and artists and all were also gay or had some situation like that. Uh, that could be something that makes you more creative, or it could be something that just allows you to explore different things.
It's
Just
a
like you can learn to dance, whereas the racehorse, the horse that doesn't have the right gait you can't do anything for it.
Well, one way I've kind of, because right there is that argument that's like the greatest artists and the greatest athletes, they all kind of seem to be sexual deviants. Bill Clinton was a great president, but I've interviewed a woman he's raped, right? I mean, Tiger Woods, billionaire, complete deviant. You have, members of like the Rolling Stones or something, or Genghis Khan, or JFK,
Yeah.
right? So you have to wonder, why do these happen this way? One thing from my own experience is, and I've talked about this all the time, I get locked on to something and I perfect it. And that's when I'm happiest.
Mhm.
That's when I'm at peace. That's when I'm like not drinking. That's when I'm not being an asshole. I just, for whatever reason, I find peace there. Now, when it's exercising and dieting or getting into med school, people go, well, that's just a hard worker. When I get thrown off track, yeah, my brother dies, and then it turns into pills and cough syrup and drinking and weight gain. People go, oh, no, 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 no. And then I just, through the grace of luck, just got it back on track. And now I'm doing podcasting, and everyone's just, well, that's 800 episodes in 2 years. God damn it. That guy just pulls himself up by his bootstraps. And it's like, it might be something that's like, it's working for this, but like, you know,
Yeah.
it's, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And it's like, well, if you can find a way to like find shit that people want nailed, no pun intended with this episode, it works out well. But then all of a sudden, what happens when it turns into I want to perfect everything. I want to cleanse the society of the dirties. And it's like, oh,
Mhm.
though that's, and then you get 6 million dead in Auschwitz. And it's,
Yeah. I mean, it really was something probably similar to that. I mean, Hitler's obsession with the final solution was
yeah,
exactly like somebody who has now
yeah.
Uh,
and was on
personally,
amphetamine.
I think that the people who get upset about other people's sexual peccadillos are themselves people who probably have some attraction to the thing that they are
It's like
that
it's
they
like
hate.
did you see that thing? And I don't know, maybe it's complete fake news and I'm just making it up, but who gives a shit? But it was like the most searched porn term in each state, and like Alabama's was ebony.
Hmm.
Like you have KKK Central, and that's what they're searching for. And then like I think California was something like it was something like patriarchal dominance, and it's like the exact opposite of like the
Yeah.
deconstruct the patriot. Everything was the opposite. Everything was the opposite.
Yeah. And part of it, I think it's like now it's an interesting question to ask why the normal outcome is that you are attracted to the other sex. Once you've figured out that you're human, there are two kinds of human, you're one of those kinds of human, but it's the other kind that most people end up attracted to. That seems to be the normal result because that would also maximize your chances of reproduction.
Mm-hmm.
It may be that if you're around something too much, there may be an inhibitory effect. So if you're exposed to something too much during the imprinting phase, you may actually de-imprint.
Get lost in the noise.
Yeah. Well, or it might actually become inhibitory instead of attractive.
Rejection. Yeah,
So
it's the it's the it's the Amish kid getting away from family and just going wild in Atlantic City or something.
yeah, yeah. There's some interesting stuff with that too.
Yeah, yeah, they have
Um,
like a specific year for it,
yeah.
right?
But the thing is that there it is actually normal to have a non-normal result with a process like this, and it's best to figure out a way to deal with it that does not cause excess death and misery. And obviously, Hitler's solution to the problem of the fact that he didn't like Jews was a little over the top. Uh, and a lot of the people who just cannot stand gays and other people whose sexuality is not like theirs, uh, they may have their problem may be that they feel some attraction there to which they have to squish. They have to say no. You can be stronger than this. Okay, you can't succumb to this temptation. And well, I am the most boringly cisgender person you will ever meet, and so I've never had a problem with gay people because
I don't give a
it
shit.
doesn't bother me. And I think it was Bill Maher who made a joke out of it. He said, you got to wonder about these people because I've never worried that I'm going to wake up one day and have to go, oh, damn, I screwed up and fucked a guy.
Well, it's like what Joe Rogan said, right? He's like, I don't understand hating gay people. Like,
Yeah.
you're either just like an asshole or you're secretly terrified that dicks are delicious. But it's like, I mean, like middle school and high school, like a private Catholic school where it's like shunned, all sexuality is shunned upon. And, you get to college and like all my friends, including me, all had the same problem where like they all thought you were gay, but it was like you had become so comfortable with your extreme heterosexuality that it'd be like, it's funny. Like we would get fucked up and like, we'd like steal a friend's like sister's bra. And it's like, it's not that we were like gay. It was just like, I had no doubt. It's like when I play devil's advocate all the time.
Mhm.
It's because I know what I like and what I believe. I have no problem just walking out on a limb and being like, maybe China is the best. What led to Prussia or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
When you become so comfortable with your own sexuality, like you don't really care. You look at it and you're like we all have that friend who's like, I don't fucking look at the gross dicks, and it's like, no, like I like sexual intercourse with a vagina. I like breasts. I like a woman's
Mhm.
face and figure.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit if a friend's like, this is why I'm gay. Like I vividly remember like a gay friend I had in college who specifically showed me like a guy fucking another guy in the ass and how the guy getting fucked in the ass came. And although like instinctually repulsed, above all else, I was just like, as a scientist and biology major, I was like, well, that is fascinating.
Yeah.
clearly it's
So
something.
that's how that
Hey, you're
works.
doing the same thing. I come too when I'm turned on. That's not a deep fake video. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But if you're
I-
so bolted down to go, oh, gross, fucking faggots, it's like you're scared. You're scared that maybe you like it, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I was also going to point out, I kind of skipped over that even among normal people, with air quotes, you have some interesting variations. And, it's like, what about guys who are particularly attracted just to breasts, like exaggeratedly large breasts, or
Comically, yeah.
we've all heard about, the guys describe themselves as breast men or leg men or something because they're
Ass man,
particularly
tits man,
interested.
yeah.
You've got the guys who are particularly interested in obese women, the chubby.
I had a friend that loved women with like moderately defined backs.
Yeah. So
Dude always ended up with hyper attractive women, but it was like the thing he liked was just not muscular, but not muscular, like a semi athlete.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't. All right.
Yeah. And you have in the past, the trend was for people to find somewhat heavier women attractive. You have the painter Rubin. We call women Rubenesque because
that meant resource excess. That meant you were right. That's why they liked pale women, because you didn't have to work in the field. I mean, you spent your time in the stone castle, which meant that you got that fucking cheddar.
Yeah. So but are all these little variations, are they are they deviants, or are they just part of normal variation? That was one of the things I was thinking of when I said that they don't really have any agreement among psychiatrists about whether certain things are normal deviations or some kind of syndrome that we should be thinking of as a that needs to be treated or something.
I think, in my humble opinion, I think it kind of, like most things, it kind of comes down to like a libertarian-esque, you do you, I'll do me.
Yeah, and
Let's
really that's
have
the only
respect.
thing that's going to work in the maximum number of cases.
I
Uh,
I think just self-preservation of like an organism, just up there with reproduction, is survival. I think that's really where you would draw a line of this is deviance. I only get off to killing prostitutes. I only get off to fucking children. I only get off to rape, to someone saying no. That
yeah,
you have to draw just a. I mean, that's a rational line. That's just
yes,
that's the biological being. That's
and
a form of fight or flight.
yeah, and the thing is, the reason that we have a sex offenders registry is because there is some recognition that these people may not be fixable. The problem with that is that we've put too many people on it. We put people on it who do not need to be registering because they're not hurting anybody.
I remember the terror. Sorry to interrupt. I remember the terror when I realized in like 2011 that in Georgia, if you were caught urinating in public, you could be put on a sex. I'm like, Thursday and Friday night, I walk home from the bars. I
Yeah.
always piss on the same telephone pole. I was like, oh God.
Yeah, and
But
it's ridiculous, and that comes back down to when you have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
yeah,
But really, what you need that for is pedophiles and people who've repeatedly done sexual violence, uh, that you need to keep an eye on. But the other thing is that then you take these people and make their lives a living hell so that they can't function.
we turn
Which,
them into a criminal.
yeah,
And that's
uh, now I can see keeping an eye on them because you want to make sure that they're not, and the other thing is it doesn't, I don't think that it makes any sense to ban imagination-based porn, things like stories and drawings, uh, because that could be an outlet for someone who has
yeah.
one of these difficult
Yeah,
drives.
that's like it.
It's,
Sorry.
as opposed to a picture of a crime, which is a picture of a crime, a photograph. That okay. So you definitely still want to go after, but it shouldn't be
Yeah.
like child porn if it's drawing. That was a stupid idea.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, because if you're consuming actual film of that, then you are
Yeah.
perpetuating a market versus, and then therein lies the question. Does, right, you have both arguments. Oh, the fact that I can just get on a video game and get a belt-fed machine gun and go to downtown LA and then an hour later go to Walmart and, wave at the greeter. Am I getting that out of my system, or is that conditioning me to be the next shooter? And then I don't have the answer to that. Where does it go? Are you able to have that? It's the quote, like, you can judge the progressiveness of,
Yeah.
you can judge the progressiveness of a society by how they treat their prisoners. You then go, are we getting pedophiles to where they need stronger and stronger stimulation, and then no simulation works, and then they're forced to act? Or is it a way of going, these are
Yeah.
people that got a fucking bad roll of the dice, and if they never act on it and they come out and say, I don't know why I feel this way, it's like if someone goes to a counselor and goes, I want to shoot up the school and I don't know why. The fact that they're going to the counselor shows that deep down there is a nugget that goes, I know this is wrong,
Hmm.
right? It's when you're really drunk and you give your friend your phone and go, don't let me text my ex, right? There's a part of you that I just want to finally talk to her. I just want to tell her that life is short and and your buddy's like, no,
Yeah.
we're not doing that. We're not doing that, right?
Yeah.
When there's any sort of effort and you have people all the time that are like, no, kill them all. And like, I've also never had a kid and I wasn't molested. And I don't know, maybe if that was different, I would be like, kill them all. I don't know. But it seems like at a certain point, like, you do have to go, did they never act on it? And did they, like, preemptively come? Because if someone preemptively comes out, that's someone that's trying.
Yeah. They're looking
to-
for help.
Now, if someone gets caught and then goes, well, now I need help. Well, now you kind of get into like well, is this just
Yeah.
I'm glad I got arrested because you know what? I have been robbing too many banks. And it's like, no, you're going to jail.
But like I read around about a someplace, I think it's in Florida, where if you're on the sex offenders registry, the only place you can live is as a homeless person under a certain underpass.
I think it's called the comedian Tim Dillon talks about it. It's called Pedophile Park.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you're doing that, how miserable do you have to make someone before they just say, fuck it, I'm going to live my fantasies anyway, because it doesn't matter. Yeah, my
Well,
life is ruined anyway.
it's like what Ray Kump said, another comedian that used to do Tim Dillon's show all the time, is he was like, I was listening to an episode like right when like Chelsea Manning got pardoned. And they're like, on one hand, people are saying that Obama pardoned her because it was a progressive transsexual move. On the other hand, they're saying, well, she went through the official channels, whereas, and it's like, well, and they're like, whereas Snowden didn't. It's like, well, Snowden didn't, and you went after him. And Chelsea Manning went through the official channels, and you still tried to put her in solitary for life. Why wouldn't you just dump the documents and flee to Moscow? If you're gonna make
Yeah.
it so, if you don't provide an outlet, an off ramp, you're either going to jail for the rest of your life, or if you rat on the higher ups, we'll give you a plea bargain. Well, then what do you expect?
Yeah.
You know,
So, so you have an effect like that going on too, where you might just leave someone with such a hopeless situation that they decide to at least have some fun before they go out.
yeah.
And if you look at a lot of the people who shoot up the local school and stuff like that, that seems to be their motivation, is that they're so frustrated with whatever it is that's tormenting them that they decide to take a bunch of other people out with them because they know they don't have
I'm
any.
feeling pain. No one
Yeah.
can hear. Fuck it. You're all gonna feel it.
Yeah.
I
Now.
mean, it's rage quitting, right? In video games,
Mhm.
it's where you just team kill your whole team and get banned from the server. That happened to me on a video game a couple months ago. It's a game I never played before, and all my friends are playing it, called Hell Let Loose, and apparently it's like the best World War II game. I never played it before, and it's unlike the easy arcade games that I like. There's like actual tactics, and you got to like look at your map and use radio calling. And I was getting so upset by it, but I kept my cool. And then finally, I got injured, and I was like laying in this ditch, and we're in like a field in Germany. And I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna try my hardest to like be a support player. And this guy came up to me and started like putting the bandage animation on me. And then as soon as I got up, and it's my own teammate, he stabbed me. And then like he like texted and said like, you suck at this game. And so I got in like a 2.5 ton truck. And because I can see the little icons over all my teammates, I just went ham and killed like 80% of my team before I was banned. And I'm still banned. But like I just said, because I remember my friends like, Tommy, what are you doing? I was like, fuck this game. I muted my microphone so I couldn't, or I muted my speaker so I couldn't hear my friends protesting. I was shit faced. It was like 3 a.m. And I'm just, I'll send you the video of it. And I'm just driving in first person, just dunk, dunk, dunk. And you just see on the team chat, like, bro, what the fuck? And it's like, who's Tommy's podcast? Fuck. But I was rage quitting because I was trying my hardest. And then someone bandaged me and stabbed me and said I sucked. And you know what? I still don't regret it.
Yeah. I mean, what we have in some cases looks like a real world version of that.
Of rage quitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the of course, it doesn't help that anyone who wants one can get an army grade weapon to do that with either. But yeah, that's another problem.
You have to wonder how much would legalizing prostitution help. And I'm not even trying to be funny. How many of these guys just couldn't? I was born. I had parents that raised me to. I got braces. I never got fat. I had a mom who was good at making us be healthy, and I wasn't born like misshapen. I'm just like an average dude. I was lucky in that like I've never had trouble like flirting with women. When I got really fat after my brother died, dude, I went from like 23 years of like really never having a problem approach. Well, it wasn't some like, like drop dead like player, but like I could just go flirt with someone. I could be charming. When I got fat, I was so angry that I couldn't even get like a flirt back, like a text. And I thought like, wow, at least I had 23 years of being able to approach women at a bar. And then while experiencing not be able to, I was able to go, hey, I think there's a correlation. Maybe I should start taking care of myself and respecting and loving myself. And that is attractive to others. Okay. And you lose weight. And now I've lost about the fattest I was like 237. I've lost like 50 pounds since then. I've put on like 20 more pounds of muscle. I have my own job again. I'm not living with my parents. What a coincidence. It's not that hard to talk to women. I don't hit it out of the park, but it's not a wall of icy silence. Now imagine if you never had that experience of being able to and then knowing how to get back to that. Imagine if all you've ever had is gross, get away.
Yeah.
Where does that lead to but rage quitting, especially when you're 18 and you don't have your brain's not even fully formed? What if you could just go get laid? Would that I don't know, maybe it would just lead to somebody becoming a serial killer. I don't know.
That's well, and again, part of the problem there is that it seems to be the haters who think that someone else is having too much fun, who wants to make I mean, like the whole thing right now, they just had a vote in Congress, in the House of Representatives, about whether to protect your right to access to contraception, and all but 8 of the Republicans voted against it.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I mean, seriously? You want to let the states make contraception illegal?
Like, so now what? I mean, it's the same. Well, if they make weapons illegal, they're just going to go on the black market. Correct. That also applies to abortions, as it did to drugs and does to drugs.
Yeah, it just so there's no consistency there, but yeah, it's like what bothers them is obviously that somebody else is having too much fun.
It doesn't, yeah, it's not consistent with the logic of if you truly believe that like abortion's murder. It's not consistent. You can see where we're going to use power to our own benefit. And then just the age old story of someone coming into power and what do you know? They become the dictator. As soon as you start to see this, you go, well, this has nothing to do with, hey, leave me, because it's always presented as leave me alone and I'll leave you alone. And then they come into power and all of a sudden they want to go, it's okay to twerk in front of kids. Or if you're a Republican, you go, you're right. And you know what? And Christ wouldn't like that either. And you're going, that's your religion. That's your thing that you're free to go praise, but that doesn't apply here. It always is. No one can ever truly stick to like the core. again, it's Google. Don't be evil. And as you
Yeah.
say, they dropped the don't because it was just, consolidation.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's sort of where some of these thought processes have led me. And of course, a lot of the stuff in some of my fiction is also based on realization of this.
It's these to the nth degree. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so uh, guess that covers that topic.
Yeah, once we've eventually once we've reached the screaming point of just make prostitution legal so you don't shoot up schools.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, I figure some of these guys self-identify as incels, involuntarily celibate.
volunteer.
That's that.
Huh? What does that mean? What does that mean? Like, I don't. I wonder what was their motive? What was their motive?
Yeah. It's like, why did they hate women so much? Oh,
But that's also not, at the same time, you're not entitled to getting laid. Like there is a
no.
point of responsibility. It's like I'm sure some of them were just dudes that never got a break. At the same time, some people are just pieces of shit. And that's someone that you could give them everything in the world and they would still be pouting at age 50.
Yeah.
And that's how you get fucking Hitler. Like,
Or Karens.
yeah, the same thing. But like, it is fucking like, at what point does like the nurturing become disadvantageous? Like it's good to be told no as a kid. Like you can't be given everything. We all had that friend when you're little just screams until he gets what you want. And
Yeah.
you're like, my parents would smack me so hard it'd be like Looney Tunes. Like my mouth would be on the back of my head. But then there's also the kids that were just like abused and always told no, and you're a piece of shit. And they never had any confidence. And now they're 30 and they're just like, no, it's okay. I'm a loser.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, you're not.
Yeah. There's obviously a sweet spot in there where you have to exert some control to make children, uh, first of all, not be ridiculous to be around, but also to help them to grow out of that so that they won't be miserable adults to be around. But too much of it basically just tears down their ego. I mean,
Yeah.
this is one of the things that, of course, that I'm not particularly fond of the last president, but Mary Trump has basically said that about Donald,
Yeah.
was that his father basically grounds his ego to dust. And
Yeah.
a lot of,
I've read stuff about Trump doing that to Trump Jr. There was like
mhm,
reports of people that were whatever the fuck he went to college or prep school, where it would be like, his dad would show up to a school function, all the dads would come in there, the alumni, and it'd be like, Dad, and then he's like, why aren't you wearing a suit? And it's just like, but he just graduated at the top of his class, like,
mhm.
and it's
So
I, I had a friend that got a higher score on the MCAT than I did. And I remember he told me, and he was like, my dad still never congratulated me because his dad was like a Harvard like med school grad.
mhm,
And my friend was like, I remember him saying he was like, I've always like appreciated that he didn't congratulate me. But then there is a point where it's like, dude, I just beat out 99% of the people in the nation for an evening. Can you just like pat me on the back? He
yeah,
was
I
like, and he
mean,
still
when
didn't.
yeah, that's over the top. And
That's painful. I
yeah,
think I got a healthy amount of like discipline.
and and I think that, yeah, well, what Barry Trump has said is that Fred Trump did that to Donald, and so Donald is doing it to his, did it to his kids because that's what he knew.
Yeah.
That was how you raise kids. That was how he was, and it's a shit show.
And then it comes down to the selection, the natural selection for psychopaths. Like, okay, let's look at it from a cold, objective viewpoint in terms of like resource aggregation and ability to get laid. Well, if the father treated you like that, and regardless of how you did it, you became a billionaire and you had security and a hot woman, natural selection's going, hey, it worked. We're saying, what a sad shit show. I'm not agreeing with
Yeah,
them. Just Hitler's dad beat the shit out of him.
Mm-hmm.
You, do you
And you
see
see
where
what happened there. Yeah.
you see where it maybe can maybe Hitler was just a devil from the beginning. I don't think it helped that he used to beat the shit out of him and his dog, and then they'd wake up in a pile of urine, and he never knew if it was his own piss or the dog's piss. You don't want to give him you go, well, it's Hitler. Okay, but if you went back in time, no, that's a 6-year-old. I like to imagine he still has a toothbrush mustache, but it's a 6-year-old. Are you going to go, this fucking kid, or are you going, Jesus Christ, get the kid some like clean clothes?
Yeah. I mean, if you're abused as a child, it's known as the
You
cycle
become
of
the
abuse.
abuser.
So because it's what you know. Um, so that's kind of a side issue, but that may be one of those things that works the same way as sexual arousal, but it's just a different system,
Yeah.
and it's programmed at a different point in a different way, but it may be a similar mechanism that determines whether you have a shitty personality like that. Uh, I mean, some of these people they have weird things. So you also had the thing with Hitler. He couldn't stand to hurt an animal.
Mm-hmm. He was a vegan.
Yeah. So what?
What the fuck? And he didn't consider Jews human. He considered them animals. So where the
Actually, I think the problem is that because they are human, they were worse than animals. I think he probably had the idea that animals can be forgiven because they're just animals.
gotcha.
But they thought, well, the risk is the Jews will end up running the world. We can't have that.
I just love the idea of someone who's never listened to this podcast just clicks on it and they're like, episode 871, like sexual deviation. Oh, this is interesting. Just click to a random point. And it's like, well, see, the problem is that animals can be forgiven because they're dumb animals, but Jews are just. And they go, good. It's good this kid was banned from YouTube. Fuck this kid.
Well,
it's just you saying it and me nodding passively with a flag behind me. No, yeah, I get it.
Well, you did a few of those things with Richard Rhodes too. So.
Oh yeah, no, where I started trying to get into the mind of the Nazis, and I would just say every like 8 seconds, I'd be like, not defending them. I'm not defending them. And I would be like, but you can understand where they were looking out for and I'm not for the fun. I would do that. I remember doing that. It was for the Einsatzgruppen episode. I was doing it. I was looking ahead. I was just trying to like lay landmines. I was trying to salt my own fields so no one could take a clip out of context. Like no one could take a clip that was longer than 5 seconds. Jesus.
The human condition is kind of bizarre. When you to go back to, you had mentioned the thing about capitalism versus some of the other systems that would seem more nurturing. Part of the problem with them is that in a large society, if we're not tribal anymore, we have countries, the assholes, the scum tends to float to the surface, where the people who end up running things tend to be the greedy people who want power, who want to run things,
the psychopaths,
and they fuck everything up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much what happened in Russia.
Yeah. I mean, it's which one is more efficient at propagating itself? The one where it's nonstop love, or the one that is so ruthless that they kill off weaklings into the point where wealth aggregates in 400 families. But they have perfect health care. And then in the eyes of biology, it's like, well, you're propagating.
Yeah. And if you look at tribal societies, when the ones that still exist that we can study, they tend to practice something that's a little closer to communism or socialism than capitalism. And it works because you only got 30 or 40 people there. And
it's beneficial to take care of everyone.
Yeah. And there's no advantage to be had by trying to grab all the wealth for yourself, because there's no way you're going to keep it. And everyone's just going to get pissed off at you.
Well, not only that, it's if I fucking take the entire the bison I killed and I took all the apples and it's all mine, and I starve the members of my 30-person clan, well, then it's just me against the Siberian winter. It's not good, man. It ain't. It's like when Henry Ford, like, didn't he introduce the 2-day weekend not out of some
Hmm.
benevolence, but because he was like, they work a lot harder when they have 2 days off.
Yeah, and he also had the idea that his workers should make enough money to buy one of his cars.
Yeah,
So he paid them well.
yeah, and that's like a weird way where it's like benevolence and capitalism kind of
Hmm.
intertwined, and it's like, but then yeah, you can't scale it up because then
Yeah,
we
it does.
get to a society where you go, I can get 100 billion. I don't give a shit if people die in the streets because I have enough people to help me. Or you can outsource it to a third world country.
Yeah, that's where you get to the difference between capitalism and what some theorists call late stage capitalism,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
that,
a rotting plutocracy.
yeah, well, because in capitalism, money has a gravitational attraction to tends to attract more money. So unless you have some kind of regulatory structure to push it back apart,
Yeah,
then you end up with these basically black holes
a
made of
run,
money. Money goes in, but it never comes out.
yeah, a runaway react. Gravity is pretty good at so far until it all
Yeah,
just collapses into a series of supermassive black holes.
yeah. Um, yeah, I was reading the other day about it was an essay on Daily Kos about how the in fact the title of the essay was "Dear Millennials, We're Sorry We Didn't Stop It," and
Jesus.
it pointed out that in the 1970s, uh, the people who were below the median income held like 40% of the wealth in America. And today, people who are below the median income hold 14%.
Yeah,
It was some set of numbers like that. It was like because all the money is being attracted to
it's
these few people who are worth billions of dollars. And if the people at the bottom, it's coming from the people at the bottom ultimately.
well, yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it's like yeah, like the wealth percentage increase from like 1970 till today, or even from 2008 till today. It's like the top 1% didn't gain nearly as much as the top 0.1%,
Yeah.
who didn't gain nearly as much. And it goes all the way up to like the 0.0001%, where it's like there is this like asymptotic, but then you got to go like full Alex Jones and be like, well, if they then use that absurd wealth, you have like 1,000 people who have just all of the fucking treasure on earth, and then they use it to merge with machines and become entities that don't die. Is that
Yeah.
not what but is that not what natural selection
Mhm.
would select for? Something that didn't need fats and carbohydrates and proteins and water. It didn't need it. It didn't get killed by radiation. That
Yeah.
in just an objective like war game tabletop, it worked.
Well, really, what you have there is a speciation event.
But in terms of the breakaway ability to
Mhm.
survive, you've if you
Yeah.
become a machine and then can just duplicate yourself trillions of times with nanobots and inseminate the entire galaxy, mathematically, that's evolution. That's it's we're going, no, it's terrible. People are dying in the streets. Evolution didn't give a fuck during like the Precambrian explosion or like the die-offs, right?
Oh,
It was like it's just this blind machine that's like more efficient. It's more efficient. It's more efficient. And it's like, yeah, but there are people shitting their pants in Amazon warehouses. Yeah, but it's more efficient. Jeff Bezos is going to live to at least 2000. And you're like, that woman just shot herself in the mouth because like she can't have a piss break. And it's like, but Bezos is now on testosterone replacement therapy. And it's like the coldness of the machine doesn't care.
yeah. Well, that's assuming that Bezos will perpetuate more than one of himself too. I mean, that's
Yeah.
you know, that's why I said really what you have there is a speciation event because you're going to have these people who become something other than human, and that may be an advantage, and that species may end up taking over and
Well, much like we have taken over
lineage.
from like apes.
Yeah, well, like we have taken over from everything in the ecosystem.
This might just be the next this might
Yeah.
this might just be part of the next pattern. Like, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah. Actually, I haven't made up my mind whether to go with it yet or not, but I was thinking of doing another serial over at Reddit, uh, not the continuation of the curators because the curators is complete, but I started thinking about virtual reality and brain machine interfaces and the kind of society that might evolve where that became universal. And So it's like one of the things that I had is that everybody, because of climate change and the great die off, everybody lives in these massive city structures, these arcologies. And when you are around 15 years old, you can be implanted with a neural lace, which will gradually grow through your brain and make up connectivity with your neurons so that you can uh, have virtual experiences and transmit your experiences. But it gets more and more uh, effective and higher resolution as you age, because the neural lace has to grow out too. So most humans are free range until their late 20s. It's not worth it to them to totally move into virtual reality because it's not really completely satisfying yet. But the older people have gone horizontal. They basically just live in the coffin, hooked up to tubes, the machines maintaining their bodies, and all of their experiences are virtual. And that might be the upper half of the arcology.
Yeah.
Just people who have totally stopped living in physical reality. And then I started chasing other implications of that. But I'm not sure how much of a story I can tell about that because it really does go to some weird place.
I think like the serial, you kind of just have to start and not know what the
Yeah.
next episode. But yeah, you gotta. I've that's one thing I've always thought is like we're looking at it. It's like back 200 years ago when it's like at the rate of population growth, like we're never going to be able to build as much like wooden ships, and it's like well, we're looking at it like you don't need wooden ships anymore. Like we have planes.
No.
So it's like right now, it's like, well, how are we going to be able to feed 10 billion people? Like, but if we all like upload to machines, then we won't give a
Yeah.
fuck about agricultural cycles. It will all just be about like fusion based electricity.
Yeah.
It's a complete
Or
speciation.
or if you've gone horizontal and basically the machines are just feeding your body enough
The
to
raw,
keep
yeah,
I mean, you're basically living off glucose because you don't have to use your muscles anymore. It's
yeah,
basically just keeping your brain alive and healthy. And we assume this is 100 years in the future, so they've perfected that quite a bit.
yeah.
But the bottom line is, if you go horizontal, then it's not even known whether there's a limit to your lifespan. But if you stay free range, then you're going to die at the usual point in time.
It
So
kind of
I
would
had,
be like the ultimate drug. Be like you're like a hardcore, like you'd be rock stars, people like Post Malone, but you'd just be like, dude, that guy never even plugged into the AI. He's just going balls
yeah,
deep. Like he still has hangovers. It'd be
yeah.
like, dude, that's hardcore.
Well, my first person care, I've written one episode, and I really want to do two or three before I decide to go live with it, just to make sure that I can sustain it.
Yeah.
But the main character is a tennis pro, and he became a tennis pro because being an athlete is one way to get credit because people will pay to share your experiences. And tennis just happened to be the most convenient sport for him to learn. And he was also able to learn because he found a tennis pro who was horizontal, but who had been one of the world's best tennis players when he was free range. And now he's giving him virtual lessons. And the main character is having playing tennis games, but the main source of revenue for him, as it were, is people who pay him to share his experience as he's playing the game.
Well,
And this has led to the extinction of American football because people found out exactly how dangerous and painful football was when they started sharing the players' experiences. It
it,
wasn't popular.
well, that's what I was thinking earlier when you're like, what would be the implications? So I was in my mind, I was thinking like, well, what would be the implications if like sexual reproduction was voided? It didn't matter.
Mhm.
If it didn't matter how good you were at working because you still had all the resources you needed, you had perfect health care. What would become the currency? What would,
Yeah,
and I think it
it's
would be,
bandwidth.
well, I was going to say it. No, well, in my mind, I was going to say it become the creative. Once you've
Mhm.
voided everything else, it'd be like,
Yeah,
it'd be like, well, you kind of want to talk to the guy who's like the insane, when everything else is taken care of, you kind of want to see the crazy artist because what other novelty is there?
Yeah. The way that I set it up, the main reason to travel is that the bandwidth inside an arcology is vast,
Yeah.
because you may be having virtual, not conversations, but in living in a virtual reality environment, full res, all your senses, real time, indistinguishable from real reality when you were younger. And you may have 10 million people doing this all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a massive information infrastructure. But between the arcologies, it's more of a soda straw for stuff like that. And so as an athlete, he has to actually travel sometimes in order to have a match, because you you have to physically be in the same space. And then the bandwidth between arcologies has to be reserved for more limited purposes, because there's not as much of it. And then there's another character who is free range, and he's in his 50s. And when the main character meets him, he's like, dude, you're going to die if you don't get a lace implanted soon. And he's like, no, I'm an investigator for data security, and I have to be immune to the threats that I investigate. So his job is investigating data integrity for the people whose lives are virtual. But in order to keep himself safe from the things he's investigating, he can't have a neural lace himself.
Don't get
And
high on your own supply.
and
Kind of
and
wrong analogy.
finally, finally, what kicked off, what kicks off the first of these episodes is the tennis pro is intercepted by this guy. And when he's on his way back to his arcology from a tennis match, and the car just goes off the road, off an exit to where he doesn't know if there's anything there. And the car just says, oh, this is a scheduled stop. And he's like, no, it's not a scheduled stop. You're supposed to take me back to the, well, it turns out that this investigator has intercepted him. And the reason is that he had a client who has paid him for virtual tennis lessons and to share his experience. This client told him that they were physically deformed and had never been able to have a real experience that rich. They wanted to know what it was like to walk around and be athletic and, use their body in a normal way. And so they paid him better than the usual rate. Well, our investigator tells him that guy who hired you was actually an alien.
Oh, God damn it.
And they have infiltrated the networks through the correlation effect, because I still have the correlation effect, but it works differently. It can't transport physical matter.
Okay.
So, but it can transport information very well.
Yeah.
And so some alien race discovered that we were using all of this correlation effect interaction and reached the point where they could participate in
Without us.
this. So
That
I'm
does,
just not quite sure where I'm going to go with that.
I think you should wing it. I think that's what kind of forces creativity, though, is not knowing where it's going. You don't want to get analysis paralysis.
I think I did my best work on the curators, though, when I was working 2 or 3 episodes ahead. So I would kind of like to have 2 or 3 episodes ready, just to give myself a little cushion and to make sure that I do have enough to say about this universe.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of, one of the things that happens is that if you've got people who have gone horizontal who were married or in love or whatever, well, they can't have sex anymore, but they can hire a couple of people who are still free range to let them take over their bodies for a few hours and have some fun. So this is what prostitution looks like.
All right.
In the virtual world.
All right.
Uh,
I think you should explore it. I think it'd be interesting because, again, there's like these meta themes where if you can't come up with anything to write about, it might be like, yeah, well, that's what it is.
Yeah. And of course, I would be writing it for humanity. Fuck yeah. So the thing that makes humans extraordinary in this universe is that no one else has done anything this extensive with the correlation effect or with virtual, the virtual reality and everything. These 20 or 30 other alien races that exist, and none of them are closer than 1 billion light years to us. They're just scattered thinly throughout the universe, and none of them have done much more. They use the correlation effect the way we use electricity to transmit signals. They haven't done anything this all-consuming, where everything is so connected and so much data is being traveled back and forth. So it's like the aliens are all going to be like, what is it with these people?
Kind of some themes there from curators, I think
Yeah.
curators of nuclear weapon. And we don't have the nanites. Why would you need to pursue?
Mm-hmm.
Could it even be done?
Yeah, it's well, it's similar because like as I've told you in the past, most of the storylines on HFY involve humans marching across the galaxy, stomping everybody with their space military. And the curators was meant to be something different. This is meant to
Mhm.
be something else different,
Okay.
where we are extraordinary in a different way that does not involve beating the crap out of all of these inferior races. So that's just my take.
I really think Alan Watts nailed it when he said, if you were God, eventually the only thing that would entertain you is
Just
to
forgetting that
temporarily
you're
forget
God.
that you're God. Like when you truly walk it out, like Mopey. I mean, you've truly had everything.
Mhm.
It would be like It'd be like in Watchmen when Ozymandias uses the tachyon bomb to temporarily like inhibit Dr. Manhattan's ability to see the future. It's just for a moment. It's like
Mhm.
it doesn't affect him at all. And he goes, that was Ozymandias's like coup in Dr. Manhattan. It was just like a dink bounced off, and all he said was he goes, "Ah, thank you, Adrian." He goes, "I forgot how sweet it was to have uncertainty." It'd be like dropping a nuke on a robot and it going like that tickled, and you're like, "Oh
Yeah.
God!" Like that was the sniper bullet, right? It's yeah. So what else would it be? And I probably would be what if you can have everything. The only thing left to have would be the inability to have it.
Hmm. Well, so there you are.
There you are. I don't really
That
know.
was deep.
I don't really know what the thesis of this is. Nobody take anything out of context from this episode. This was a minefield.
Well, so we always end up doing this.
We always get to this point.
Yeah. So it's
Much like the money gravitates upwards in the capitalist system, there's like late stage Tommy and Roger episode. It always goes to either human annihilation or what would you do if you were God?
well,
It
what would
really
you do if you were God has been a major hobby horse of mine because just about every work of fiction I've ever written has been about the interaction between humans and godlike beings.
yeah.
So that's that's kind of a focus of mine,
Yeah.
uh, which is an interesting psychological thing itself, I suppose.
Yeah.
But,
I'm head fucked. Oh,
success.
you did it. You fucking did it. Oh, I had something I was gonna tell you. I forgot what it was though. Don't remember.
Hmm.
Oh, I don't know. I guess I don't remember. I'm a little not at all related. My little brother's getting married this weekend, or
Oh,
like a week from yesterday, I think. So that's cool. I guess. Fucking. I think I should beat the shit out of him though. He's taller than me. He's better looking than me. More successful than me, and he has a loving fiance and a cute dog.
that,
I can't let him have a total coup. Like I feel like I don't want to do like a black eye because I don't want to like fuck up his wedding photos. But there's like something I need to do. I don't know what. I haven't decided. But I don't. I mean, I shouldn't publicize my plans, but like something needs to be done.
I have nothing to do with this at all.
Roger's like
Whatever Tommy's about to do.
It's like PewDiePie when he's like making fun of T-Series. You probably don't know if this is like this is like Zoomer shit. I'm like a fucking boomer. I'm like, did you see the meme? But he's making fun of like a T-Series, which is like an Indian conglomerate. It's like a MTV because they beat him in subscribers in like 2020. But it's PewDiePie, which is one man, versus like a $10 billion corporation with a bunch of employees. Like it's not really.
Yeah, it's not.
Congrats,
fair.
you beat PewDiePie. So he sings a song called Congratulations, and the entire thing is just mocking them. He's like, I'm sure you've never plagiarized like music. I'm sure you've never like, all these crimes, and he's listing them. And he's like, I'm sure you haven't ever colluded with the Indian mafia. And then he goes, for legal reasons, that's a joke. No, he goes, that's a joke. That's a joke. For legal reasons, that's a joke. That's kind of what I'm thinking Rogers right now. He's like, for legal reasons, I'm not involved. Rogers like, I'm not co-signing this.
I did not know anything about that attack being planned.
There are no knowns, there are known unknowns, and there are unknown unknowns. Donald Rumsfeld, that bastard. Well, Roger, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Wrap it up.
I'm like in like a weird purgatory. Like I don't know. Even with like not just tonight, like in general, like I don't know where the podcast is going. I don't really know what I'm doing. I feel like this is something more apt for therapy, not a podcast. With that, Mr. Roger Williams, if you don't want to fucking full circle, if you don't want to, that's what it was. There was a thesis at the beginning about how Bezos is going to become an inhuman cyber god. We fleshed it out. If you don't want it to go to that point, buy the fucking book on Lulu. This is what you can do. This is Terminator. You can still stop Skynet.
He already has the world's largest rocket propelled dildo.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, geez, it is. Wasn't it Alan Watts that also said he's like all of our like rockets, either our nukes or our exploratory rockets, are all big cocks? Like, is that not just manifesting itself still, where we're like penetrating the universe?
Well, at work we have a marketing girl who has been busy for the last year or so getting IVF done so that she could conceive, and then she had her kid. And in the midst of all of this, she didn't see some of the news. And there's four of us, actually five, but this day that this happened, there were four of us in the room. And two of the others were talking about just, Bezos and SpaceX and all this. And I think Kevin said, yeah, well, and what's with Bezos's rocket looking like a dildo? And
just like
Jamie, the marketing girl, just like, what? And we were all like, you haven't seen it? Google Jeff Bezos's rocket. We hear keys tapping, like 10 seconds later. You have got to be fucking kidding me.
It's kind of funny. It's like if you had ever been in a coma at any other point of human history, more than the last 2 years, if you were in a coma in like late 2019, I don't know, maybe like 2015. If you went into a coma in 2015 and woke up now and said, I don't entirely agree with Biden, but President Trump didn't handle the pandemic well, that sentence, that sentence, right? Like never, maybe other than like World War II or like being unconscious through 9/11, even 9/11, you could kind of be like, yeah, it was kind of bad, it was bad to happen. Listen, I get that Bezos has a dildo shaped rocket, but don't let it take you away from the fact that President Trump botched the pandemic. Huh? I don't know, man. I heard it on the Joe Rogan podcast. Like, what? It's all right. Fuck this. I'm gonna take a shower, play some video games. I got nothing else. What would you do if you're a god? I don't know. Start a podcast and shoot the shit with Roger. Buy a fucking book on Lulu. Roger, obviously I won't be here next week because my brother's getting married, but week after that, brother, and you feel better, my man.
I'm sure I will. This is just the thing that happens every month or 2 weeks to a month. It's just something I eat disagrees with me, and I have to back it out and reset. But I don't think it's anything serious. I think it's just another chapter in how wonderful it is to get old and things start
And
falling
be
apart.
and be a human. I always
Yeah.
say that on the phone with my mom. I'll just be saying something like, "Yeah, no, it's like this is happening." She'll be like, "You're just getting old." I'm like, "No, I'm. Oh fuck, I'm past 18.
Yeah.
This just might happen now." Like, oh,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, I'm
it's not getting
50.
there.
I'm 58, and that's like I work with a guy that I graduated from high school with, and every once in a while we'll just say, you wake up and one day and you're 58 years old. How the fuck did this happen? And we'll be like, yeah, because it's like in your mind, it's like, well, we just graduated from high school last week, and how did this happen?
It's yeah. In the spring, it will be 10 years since I graduated college. I'm like, what?
Mhm.
Yeah, man, that's
I'm constantly running across shit that, it's like, well, I've got to update this system. When did I build it? 2007.
and you're like,
Uh, That's
fuck.
been right. Yeah. And in fact, that's where I'm going to be tomorrow and Tuesday in Alabama, replacing the system that I designed and put in. That one probably around 2009. Uh, and the instrument that it's centered around isn't made anymore. And what happened there is the state of Alabama decided that an unattended system has to enforce the scale coming back to zero before it'll weigh another truck.
Mhm.
And their system doesn't do that. Well, our salesman there reminded him that your indicator's obsolete. Do you really want to spend money updating this system, which if it anything ever goes wrong with it, parts are not available, or while we're doing work on it anyway, update it to the new model that is nice and is that it's still made and you can get parts for it and will probably be on the market for at least a few more years. And they're like, well, yeah, because we're like, the thing about your truck scale, if you're an industrial facility, is your cash register.
Mhm.
And we have so many customers that we have told them, uh, you aren't taking good care of your scale, it's going to fall in. We've had truck scales collapse under trucks because they rusted out. This one has an instrument that's obsolete, and it's got a complicated program that has to be rewritten in a new system. If this gets hit by lightning, you're going to be screwed.
Yeah.
And we have so many customers that won't spend the money. They're like, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And it's like, when we come to it, you're going to be down for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So, but that's another chapter of humans, I guess. It,
Completely unrelated. I think you might like the episode I did the other day with a guy who was on a naval ship during the TWA Flight 800.
oh yeah, I started watching that and I didn't have time to finish it. Uh, yeah, that thanks for reminding me about that. I think I'll probably go back and finish that sometime.
It's very rarely that I actually go. I mean, very rarely that I listen to my own podcast. Because one, I'm just like, it just kind of like feeding the geese and having them follow me. I'm like, this isn't good for my ego. I don't like listening to my own podcast because I'm like, this isn't half bad. And I'm like, that's bad for work ethic. Like don't get competent. That's death. That is one that I actually did listen to like the first hour of. Not half bad. And it spirals wildly off into conspiracy where eventually we're not sure if Hillary Clinton was involved, but like I think it was pretty good. It was a pretty fun thought exercise. I think you might enjoy it.
Okay.
But
Yeah, there was
oh
something
yeah,
else I was thinking of.
and Richard Rhodes is he's busy for I think the rest of the year, but he is going to write a book on the Large Hadron Collider, which I think is going to
Yeah,
be
I
fucking
saw,
great.
I did watch that entire episode.
I saw your comments. Yeah, I saw that skirmish, that light skirmish. I have a whenever I get
Don't be
involved
dissing my friends here. Yeah.
when I get involved with comments, it always spirals downwards wildly. I either have to respond like thank you or not at all.
Yeah.
Love the podcast, Tommy. Keep at it. Thank you. You're working hard. It's going to work one day. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. If I find myself beginning to type out anything other than like, thanks, dog, I have to, because that's only happened once before. And I know you know what I'm talking about. That went, I mean, I went to the jugular and it was just a bad look. Just a bad look. I just shouldn't get involved. And I saw that with the other episode where I was like, I can't do this. Like it sucks me in and like the fangs come out and it's a bad look. It's a bad look. It's not mature. I mean, it might be legally actionable. I've never used Dale as a threat, but I mean, run this simulation enough times and I'll probably drop Dale's name and that's not good.
Only when threatening people to buy my book.
For legal reasons, that's a joke. All right, Roger. Take care. Feel better. I'll text this to you when it's up and we will resume, I guess, 2 weeks from today.
All right.
God bless everybody. Stay safe. Much love. And as always, Roger, appreciate it, my man.